Welcome to the online radio and television station. Here are the news today. In Da Nang City, the Central Institute for Economic Management, in collaboration with the United States Agency for International Development, held a conference to discuss the plan for improving the business environment, especially in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving businesses with many difficulties. According to a report at the workshop, experts said that thanks to the government's efforts to implement synchronous solutions have helped Vietnam improve its national competitiveness. According to a World Bank report, the Business Environment Index in Vietnam increased from 61.11 points in 2015 to 69.80 points in 2019. However, many experts believe that the impact of COVID-19 caused Vietnam's GDP in the second quarter to be only 0.4% over the same period. This is the lowest growth rate in nearly 10 years. Therefore, continuing to implement practical solutions to improve the business environment and addressing business support packages affected by COVID-19, and lastly, encouraging the business community to participate in policy discussions are essential premises for continued economic recovery and development. In the first half of this year, Korean investors registered to pour more than 544 million USD into Vietnam. The total registered capital of Korean enterprises in Vietnam in the first half of this year has reached nearly 70 billion USD, becoming the country with the largest direct investment capital in Vietnam. This amount of money is registered to invest in more than 8,000 projects, creating jobs for more than 700,000 workers in many localities, contributing 30% of the total export value of Vietnam. At a recent dialogue with Korean businesses in Hanoi, Korean Ambassador Park No-won asked the Vietnamese government to support businesses so that there will be no difficulties in administrative procedures to expand investment. For a large-scale construction project involving Korean firms, the Korean ambassador suggested Vietnam would take active care so as not to cause difficulties due to administrative procedures, and no investor would suffer any unwanted damage. Regarding the surveillance of swine flu in Vietnam, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development said that currently the laboratories of Department of Animal Health have the efficiency capability and testing materials to detect influenza viruses, including the swine flu virus. Accordingly, from 2009 until now, after the emergence of pandemic influenza caused by the PDM/09 H1N1 in 2009, DAH collaborated with other countries and international organizations to organize surveillance activities. They actively taking samples and testing on 35,600 pigs of all kinds. Facing the above situation, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development proposed the Prime Minister to consider and direct the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to assume the prime responsibility and coordinate with the Ministry of Health in organizing the supervision of swine flu in pigs and humans, especially the PDM/09 H1N1 strain and the strains that can infect humans. Moreover, it is needed to continue to coordinate with other countries and international organizations to conduct intensive research on swine flu. The International Recognized Libyan National Solidarity Government, or GNA, on July 18th sent more militants closer to Sirte, a gateway to Libya's main oil bases, which the GNA has announced its plans to regain control from the Libya National Self-Proclaimed Forces in the east. According to GNA witnesses and military commanders, about 200 vehicles have moved east from along the Mediterranean coast towards the town of Tawaga and are heading towards Sirte. GNA recently regained control of most of the LNA-controlled territories in northwest Lebanon, put an end to the 14-month military campaign as General Khalifa Haftar, who is the commander of the LNA, took after the capital of Tripoli, before consolidating a new front between Misrata and Sirte. The COVID-19 epidemic has hit the U.S. tourism industry heavily, and the industry has called for financial bailouts from the government. The U.S. tourism industry has asked the Congress to provide 10 billion USD from the federal relief funds to promote safe operations, protect new debts, reduce taxes for tourists and the industry itself. The American Tourism Association also wants 13 billion USD for the US airports and a tax rebate of up to 50% of travel costs by the end of 2022, an equivalent to 3,000 USD per household. Tory Emerson Barnes, who is in charge of the association's policy, said that due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the activities of the U.S. tourism industry are getting worse. This smokeless industry is likely to lose 1,200 billion in revenue by the end of this year. That is the end of the news today. Thank you for tuning in.